You ready? First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's a beautiful fall night in New England, and we're here in one of our grand old buildings in town, so I do thank you for taking the time to come here. For those of you that had the tour, I hope that you enjoyed it. Hope you didn't leave with any doorways, Mr. DeTono. We were watching you. But in any event, it was and is a great building, so we thank you for coming. I want to thank the DPW for setting up tonight, and I do want to recognize a few people in the audience. First of all, from the Board of Selectmen, Selectman Peter May. Peter, thank you for coming. Oh, little delay, but okay. Since he's my board and my boss, hold the applause and everybody else, I don't care. From the Finance Committee, we have Doug Butler. From the Board of Appeals, from the Board of Appeals, Jim McBain and Amy Wall. Did I miss anybody on the Board of Appeals? No? From the Planning Board, I think we have Matt Lowry and Billy DeMori. Anybody else? The Planning Board that I missed? People are sneaking in. No problem. From the Housing Authority, Sandra Gass in the back there. Yay! Bob Curran from the Advisory Board of Public Works is here. I don't think I missed any other elected or appointed officials. But I do have our DPW director here, Rick Stinson, and our town planner, Paul Revis, our head of buildings, head of grounds, Chris Pierce, our town engineer, Mike Collins. Did I miss anybody as I'm looking out here? No. Okay, great. I do want to turn this over to you. And this is really a listening session for us to get some ideas and to see what the community is interested in the reuse of this building. But before I do start that, I want to ask a couple of questions just to show how we did in getting out the word. So I'd like to say, by a show of hands, how many heard about tonight's meeting primarily from the flyer that we went door to door with? You writing those down? Okay. How many from, thank you, how many from the town website? Okay. How many from the town Facebook page? A few, okay. How many from another group's Facebook page? A few there too. How many from the Wakefield item? Great. And how many word of mouth? Okay, so I think the direct drop-off is still the best way to go, at least in this neighborhood. A couple more questions, and I will turn it over to you. How many of you went to this building as a student, or your children went? Oh, come on, don't be shy. Or grandchildren. Okay, great. Final couple of questions. No matter what reuse there is for this school, how many people would like this building to remain as part of the reuse? At least at first blush. Okay, how many don't care if it's knocked down? Okay, thank you. I'm going to be as transparent as possible. I went to school here from 1st through 6th grade with a lot of people's children in here, and a lot of people I went to school with as well. And I personally, Steve Mayo personally, would like to see the building remain. So I just want to give you my thoughts coming out of the gate. But right now, what I'd like to do is to really turn it over to you. And what we'd like to get is we'd like to hear some ideas. It's been thrown out that we do want to have a reuse of this building. The Board of Selectmen does want to solicit ideas from the community. There has been no decision made on anything. It's not even close to a decision made. In fact, if you look at if everyone got the flyer that we handed out tonight, we haven't even got to step 1 yet. This is before step 1. But we did want to hear from the neighborhood and hear what they had to say. So if you would, a lot of people threw things out either on Facebook or on the newspaper. So if you would, come up to the microphone. We don't have Bill Carroll here, so it's much more pleasant. Oh, someone will tell him I said that, right? That's okay. But please come out and say your name and let's just put out what you'd like to do. Don't be shy. Come on, Deb, come on right up here. I'm going to ask Paul, will you help me, please up? I'm going to rip them out, you'll tape them.
I think that the population in town is growing in terms of the people are returning to families of 4 and 5. I think that we're moving people out of the Walton to the Woodville. I think that at one point in time we were lucky enough to reclaim the Doyle to turn it back into a preschool. I don't necessarily think the school has to stay a school forever. I think we could shop it out to be a charter school. I think we could call a school for the deaf. We could do a lot of things. If we don't use it here, we could become landlords. But I hate to see us forfeit a building for what amounts to about 2 years of salaries, which I don't mind what anyone gets paid. That's not a complaint, but once we give up this land, we give it up forever. So we have a building now. We can't afford to build new schools. We're already in money for the Galvin. So if we could find a way to reuse it on a smaller scale, I don't think we can bring first graders over here. It can't operate as a school because it's administrative costs. But if we could turn it into maybe the preschool, and then the Doyle could overflow the Walton to there so they'd at least be on the same side of town, I just think we could be creative with the reuse of this for education.
Maybe Chris, can you help me? As we take them down, I'm going to put these up and we'll bring them back. Okay, anybody else? Please come up to the microphone. I'm sure there's more. Come on, Bob. Don't be shy. And just like tape it up on the wall.
Good evening. Bob McLaughlin, 376 Water Street. I've always been opposed to getting rid of town property, particularly this building right here. We actually used the Montrose School, as if anybody remembers, as a swing school when the public safety building was being built. We had an extra building. The police department was down there for, I don't know, a couple of years or so, anyway. And if we didn't have that swing school, I don't know where they would have been housed, but we would have ended up paying, for temporary quarters for them someplace or renting a building. For that reason, I think I do a lot of work in Brookline, and they have a swing school over there, and they use that building, particularly when as a matter of fact, they just renovated a few years ago. They renovated the town hall over in Brookline. And they moved all their offices over into that particular swing school, and they specifically keep a couple of buildings just for that reason. And if I was doing the math, I think we're running out of schools to do that purpose for. We get rid of the Montrose School, the Franklin School is gone, the Lincoln School, got adapted, and in fact, if I had a wish list, I would like to see this school turn out to be what the Lincoln School is, and put a bunch of housing in for the elderly, which would be a really good asset for this town. That would be one thing I'd like to use it for. And if that wasn't available, hang on to it, use it as a swing school. Something's going to happen someday, either at the town hall or one of those other schools, and we're going to need some space. And it's going to be a whole lot more expensive to rent something or bring in portable classrooms than it would be to utilize this beautiful building right here. That's about all I have to say, folks.
So, Bob, if I can get you said swing space.
Yep.
And senior housing?
Senior housing.
So you had two kind
things.
of reuse
Yep.
options.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Cindy Schatz. I live in the neighborhood, and I've been here since 1990, but my kids never got to be in this school because it closed the year before they started going to school. I'm fine with that. But I've lived here while it's been used as a school, as a SEAM collaborative, as a swing school for the Dole Bear and for the Nazareth. I think that the space is wonderful. I've walked through it 15 years ago when it was changing over, and I've walked through it again tonight. And as my neighbor was saying, the light in the rooms is so fabulous. It seems to me like this would be a great location for an arts community. You have all these spaces that could be used for music classrooms and for arts classes. You have space like this that could be used for recitals. You could have ongoing demonstrations here, and it's not the kind of use, I think, that would end up with the neighborhood being all parked up, because we've been members for 14 years at Creative Arts in Reading, which used auxiliary space in a church. And they used every Sunday school classroom that was available during the week for their lessons. The spaces here are just fabulous, whether you're doing piano lessons or other instruments, for setting up easels, for classes that would be taught. It's just great space, great light.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? If I have to go home, my wife's going to put me to work. Please, someone come up. Yeah, thank you, John.
John Detono, Central Street. I'd like to see the school stay part of town property. Another idea to use it is take all the buildings, the Historical Society, move it over here so they can put everything on display. Instead of having different times of the year, just show certain artifacts. We have a lot of artifacts in the society that nobody sees. There was a lot more visibility in the basement of the Civic Center. So that would be one option, to use it as a place for the Historical Society. And if the town wants the money, sell the property over there. You probably get 2 good house lots and make as much money as you're going to sell over here, where that little school is there. So that's
So if I understand you, you would swap this for the little red?
For the little red
Okay.
schoolhouse. And if you want to keep the schoolhouse, put it in the backyard.
Okay.
You know?
Anybody else? Come on up.
How are you? My name is Dave Connor. I live on Quarter Street, actually right across the street.
Right there.
I like the flex usage, especially. We've read about how cramped the DPW is and could be and will be. And I've talked to a lot of DPW guys. This could be used storage space for DPW at times while they're rebuilding their own. And I don't know if anybody's thought about a new high school. Where are those students going to go to school when it's torn down and rebuilt? Could this be used for 4, 5, 6 classrooms, even while they're going through their times? So again, flex usage would be my vote.
Okay.
Hi, I'm going to echo some of the things people have already said. First of all, I think the community should have say in this, that you don't want to disrupt the neighborhood with a lot of traffic, so you have to be very careful what's put here. Secondly, I was a teacher for many years in Cambridge, and schools have been built in Cambridge at many different times, and constantly we had to find a place to put those children. And I can't see taking this off the town's rolls right now, because if you do build for the Walton or the Greenwood School, where are those kids going to go? It's not going to be like at the middle school where you had the land and the school was built at the same time as the kids were still in their own building. So that's one concern. As an artist, and when I first walked in here and saw the light coming through these windows, and I live at the other end of Pleasant Street, and every time I drove by here and I wonder what they're going to do with that building. And I thought of this for several years before Nazareth came in, and thought, what a great place for art studios. I've toured many art studios in many different towns. I know what they did with the school building in Concord and made it those wonderful artist communities. So if schools don't pan out, maybe a developer would want to come in and make artist studios. I don't know, but that's another possible idea. There's studios, again, the arts community, something that people will be able to still park. You know, even like an education center. I was in Cambridge the other day driving through, and the school I taught at was being torn down, and the kids had moved to one of the old buildings where they're going to build the new school. But I went by the Cambridge Center for Adult Education, And I thought, oh, I've always wanted to take a class there. I did once in like 30 years. I took a class here because you can't park, or you have to pay to park somewhere. What a fantastic opportunity to have adult education classes here. So I think this building is in a beautiful condition. I'd love to see it being used by the community.
Go right after this gentleman. But
Good evening, everybody. My name's Tim Pensner. I live on Hurd Street. I think there's a lot of great uses, a lot of great ideas up here. Personally, for myself, I have a 10-year-old with special needs, so I would love to see something with the school done for kids with special needs, autism, maybe a rec center. You know, personally, in my generation, you know, we struggle with finding places to have our kids or kids with special needs to go. Something like this would be a great opportunity for a lot of children that don't have that today. And, you know, it would be nice to focus in that arena, you know, and other than that,
thank you.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Move this way. I'll give you more room. Oh, Bob, sorry.
A question first. We didn't get to go upstairs. Is it
That's right.
Is it usable up there?
Yes, the condition is much the same as it is in the first floor, but there are no handicapped accessibility for the upstairs, and frankly, we did want to make sure that someone didn't get roaming around and ended up locked in here, so that was for safety, but it's basically the same as the first floor upstairs.
And I know there's a large room under here,
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
It's an old gymnasium. When we went here, we had poles in the middle of the gym. That's why we're tough when we came from this school, but yeah.
You know, this room here could be used for youth basketball. You could put a couple of hoops in here. This is a good floor and everything. So
Okay.
that's a possibility.
Rec center, did I have that? Rec?
And
Okay.
there's always a chance for charter school, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'd be a private school? Want me to put private school?
I'm Jeff Workman on 30 Quarter Street, and I have a question on the ownership part. The Board of Selectmen accepted property on September 2005. Does that mean that the Board of Selectmen own the building, or does the town of Wakefield and all the
Well-
citizens own the building?
It is under the control of the Board of Selectmen, but the Board of Selectmen can't really act without the town of Wakefield authorizing it. If the Board of Selectmen were to sell the school or sell the property, we would need a two-thirds vote of town meeting, so it is under the control of the town of Wakefield. What is important about that little snippet in that is that in 2005, the Wakefield School Committee voted the Hurd School as surplus property. So the school committee has given up all kind of rights to the school. That's really what that was meant to portray.
But the school committee didn't own the building,
Well,
did they?
where it's used as a school, there are state statutes that gives the school committee a lot of authority under a school. So when the school committee waived their rights to the school, for instance, they had no more say on what went on here. So when Seam Collaborative came in here, that lease was only negotiated with the Board of Selectmen. School committee had nothing to do with it. If you juxtapose that with the Ewell School, which the school committee has still retained ownership of, so to speak, or a part of the control of that, they also signed the lease with the Board of Selectmen. So they've relinquished all rights to the school as of 2005.
I guess that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ideas that are similar to what's up there, we don't need to voice them.
You can if you wish. Sure.
I'm just going to support the idea of a creative performing arts center.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Mr. Butler? Mr. Butler and then this gentleman here.
Sure. Doug Butler, Main Street. Speaking as just a neighbor and not as a member of the Finance Committee, but still wanting to talk about selling the building or selling it outright, the town's financial condition is decidedly better than it was in years past when we previously sold land and sold school buildings. So I think that my premise is that I'm not sure which of these good ideas or which of these ideas has, but frankly, it should stay. I, as a citizen, would really like the property to stay under the town's ownership. I just don't think, we don't need the money right now.
Hi, Eric Savage. I live on Quarter Street. I'm going to go completely in the opposite direction. I can understand that the town is in a better financial situation, but I can't see how we wouldn't need the money soon or in the future or when the next building project comes up. What can we get in here that would give us tax revenue? If any of those can come in and give us tax revenue, that would be great. Otherwise, could we sell the property? I don't have an answer to my own question. Could we sell the property, gain the proceeds from the sale, have someone come in that's going to give us tax revenue, then have that money available if you want more teachers, more firefighters, more policemen and women, so be it. Have the option that way.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? Just want to flesh it out. Tax revenue is an ongoing yearly revenue. That's the way I think of tax revenue. Were you also thinking of an upfront
I was
chunk?
thinking of, is this building costing the city money or is it gaining the city money? And
Okay.
I'd rather have something in here that's gaining
Okay.
the city money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I came in kind of with the idea of thinking that we're going to turn these into condos, and I went to school here, so I've always said I'm going to live in the Hurd School when I get older. But now, now hearing all these ideas, I really like the idea about the rec usage. Dan McGrath has done such a great job with the rec department, and I think that having a big space like this would open up that for all the kids in town. Plus, I think for adults, we used to, I don't know if they still have it, but at the Voc, they used to have adult classes, whether it was yoga, swimming, obviously you can't do swimming here, but, you know, painting, art classes, whatever it may be, music. I think that having a space like this attached to the town and going along with the rec department, I think would be a great idea.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah.
John Carrick, 128 Pleasant Street, block away. I used to work down in Cambridge in the Kendall Square area, and there's, you know, the high-tech thing going on down there, and there's a certain vibrancy that comes from that. But the rents for those incubator spaces for little companies to start from is very high, and there may be pent-up need for small company office space that would benefit from a place in the burbs rather than way downtown. There may be a chicken and egg problem on having enough stuff in one area to make it go, but there might be a plan for that. I don't know.
Okay.
You could explore that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is incubator ER or OR?
OR.
OR? Okay. None of my teachers are here that taught me that, so I'm not worried. Sure, sure. They declared it surplus property. No, all rental for any of these town buildings goes into the general fund, so that doesn't necessarily go directly. At the time, the school committee declared this surplus property at the same time they declared the Franklin surplus property. So, yeah, no. The question was, what was the school committee thinking when they? Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I don't. I think that they no longer needed the building, what they were doing. Woodville had just been built, and they weren't using the building, so I think that's what happened. Yeah, we will at the. I just wanted to get some of the. Yeah. Yeah. Any other ideas before we kind of maybe flush some of them out? a little bit? Okay, you had a question about the condition of the building, Rick or Chris, do you want to? Maybe if you use the microphone, just because people can hear.
The building is in pretty good shape. There are a number of issues, and I'm going to let Chris talk about those. But when the Hurd School came in, they did a tremendous amount of work inside. We've done a tremendous amount of work to the infrastructure of the building. So the building's pretty solid. With an old building, there's always issues. You have a slate roof where the slate, as time goes on, the nail holes will widen and slate will start to fall off. That's probably, when that's replaced, there's probably a $300,000 to $400,000 item. You have a heating system that's going to need a lot of work. There is some drainage issues that are in the basement where groundwater comes up and will flood out the basement. We've tried to seal that, and Chris can talk about that a little bit. So with any old building, there are issues, but can the building be rehabbed and survive? Absolutely. Chris, you wanna?
Each year we have the contractor come out and tweak the roof, tighten up all the slate. As you can see, there's been some leaks over the years. We've got most of them. I think right now we're 100%. How long that'll last, I don't know. The basement we've sealed. We haven't had water, obviously, in a long time because it's been pretty dry out there, but in the future, I don't know, maybe. We have guys that come through here once a day to check the building, make sure everything's running, the boilers, everything else. We had a new boiler installed 3 years ago to replace a very aged boiler. Other than that, we keep up with the daily upkeep of it, and it is what it is. You see it today.
Would you come up just so people can hear you at home? That's the only reason.
Hi, I'm Kevin Mashoff. I just live down the Cordes Street a bit. My question really relates to what are the user experiences of the schools that have been here in most recent years. If you could comment on how they managed here, how effective was this as a physical plant, because that might impact on the ability of this facility to actually serve some of these needs that have been brought up. I like a lot of the concepts that have been offered up, but the question might be which one of these are practical in light of the experiences of those that have actually used the facility recently.
I'll give two that, and then I'll let Chris talk about our previous tenant, which was the Nazareth Academy. Two issues that are here for a school, obviously, are outside space, that is green space. There's not a lot of room on the outside. The inside, obviously, is the ADA issues. There is no elevator currently in this building. That would, if it was used as a school, you would need to put an elevator and redo the entrances to allow people to get in. Those are two big issues. And Chris, if you want to.
SEAM Collaborative had it first. They loved it. I wasn't here when SEAM left and moved over to the Hurd School, but they've expressed interest back in this building. When the NAS was here, they loved it, and they ran into financial problems and had to leave, but they loved it. If they could have stayed here, they would have. That's how much they love this building. So,
for the people in the neighborhood, because this was a school in recent days, what was the impact? I mean, we never got one complaint at Town Hall regarding traffic and things like that. Is that true? Fair? So there was no issues with. No issues. Okay, great. Great. That's what I thought. Most people aren't afraid to complain, but I wanted to make sure. Any other different suggestions, and then we can talk about some of these a little bit? All right. There were a lot of the suggestions up here talked about the property staying with the town. So let's talk about that as kind of a threshold question. Is that the consensus of these people, of the group? Yes. By a show of hands, just so I can see. Okay, those who don't wish it to stay with the town? Okay. Historical Society Museum, and I'm just going to take this as we go across here. The suggestion was that use this building here. We'd all be awfully big. Just want to go through it, John. I think it'd be awfully big for that. There must be some other use we'd want to have there with it. Again, I'm very concerned with the ADA here, so we would have to expend money to take that up, and like I said, the second floor is an issue with that as well. This is just off the cuff. We're here to listen and kind of bring it back. Senior housing, Sandra Gass is here, but we had a conversation about this. That would take a while. There would be grants that we'd have to go for, and that is certainly an option, but that's something is that a fair assessment that we talked about, or? Yep. Okay. Yes.
What's the waiting list now for senior again? Depends on where it is, but probably like 3 years.
How much? How many? I didn't hear your answer.
3 years.
3-year waiting? Right. Okay. Great. We are closing the gap on lower. We're at 8%. State says we need to be at 10. So with some of the inclusionary zoning, we've been making progress on that over the years. So. Okay. I'm going to do this.
I have a question about the senior housing idea. Is this area zoned for that, or would it have to be?
This area is zoned for single residence. So, Paul, I'm going to get you. You can take the zoning question.
It's in the municipal district right now. If we changed it to senior housing, it might be a developer doing that on behalf of the town, and that could be possible under the municipal building reuse overlay district. But we'd really have to study that and see how that would be done as a town property.
Would that be extremely expensive? Who would be paying for that?
The question was, who would be paying for the rehab for senior housing? Well, I think in the past, we have applied for grants through HUD, and it takes a long time to get them. I'm going to think the new building at Harts Hill was built almost entirely with the grant, Sandra? Yep. So but that is getting on the list, and it's getting on the federal list, so that does take a while. If we're going to retain the property, if there's a zoning change, yes, that has to be voted on at town meeting. Any zoning change would have to be done. Some of the rental options that are being mentioned here, those may not have to be voted on at town meeting. That would be in front of the Board of Selectmen.
Sorry, because you mentioned rent.
Right.
But, how much money do you need in rental income to sort of maintain?
Well, it depends on what happens to the building, I guess. If the slate roof goes, we need a lot more. You could probably count on getting around $100,000. I haven't considered the incubator space, so that'd be something that I don't know what that would be for rental, if that would be more or less. But if we in the past, around $100,000 a year is what we may be able to get for rent for educational use. Probably costs about $7,000 to keep the property insured. The boiler we're still paying off. What is that? For the boiler?
We're only
3 years into it, so that's not bad. It's not like we get $100,000 and it goes right into the coffers. There are some expenses that come with that, but it does depend on, like any landlord, it depends on what happens to the building. This building is older, so if the roof goes, that could be a huge expense.
Steve, the other thing, we only did one floor, we didn't
Right, right. So we have another boiler we have to do at some point. And someone's shooting at us. All right, please stop me if there's any questions. Artist studios, I think that may come a little bit with, flesh that out. You're talking about like maybe, I'll call it loft space in my mind for artists, for creators and what have you. I will say that we do have thoughts of that at the Albion Cultural Exchange, the ACE Center, I just want to say ACE, Albion Cultural Exchange. Some of the same issues we have there, ADA compliant, putting in access to the second floor and what have you. Here we have ADA compliant just coming up the stairs here. So those are some issues we needed to look at. I gotta say, I was kind of surprised that someone mentioned DPW storage. I would think that those trucks backing up at night when they come to get them at 4 in the morning would be problematic to the neighborhood, but maybe that wasn't the storage that you meant. But I think if you give Mr. Stinson storage, he's gonna put a lot of stuff here. So I just think we gotta be careful. Anybody else want to talk on that?
In all the options that we're talking about, there's a lot of requirements for handicap accessibility. Has anybody looked at doing a study of the building to see what the costs are to do that?
We have not, but that if we maintain it, that'll probably be part of it.
I'm just curious what the price would be, because that would impact who would be interested in renting it, as
Right.
well as, I think using it for children that have disabilities would be great, but then there's that money issue.
Right.
So we have to look at how to market that.
Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Adult ed, someone mentioned parking. There is parking out back here, which is pretty good right now. Adult ed, there is still adult ed at the VOC, has an adult ed program. We used to have one with the Wakefield School Department. That adult ed is something that Dan McGrath and I have been talking about. We wanted to get the youth first, and he's done a great job with that, and I think you can see that coming down the pike. He was thinking, and I was thinking of using the Civic Center more for that, but that doesn't mean that this couldn't be used as well. DPW storage, incubator space, swing space, rec center. Anything that I didn't, oh, excuse me. Okay. Right. Right. Well, I will tell you that they work very well with our rec department. They share a lot of things together. But is that an option? If we were to sell it, okay, again, that does take it off of the town doesn't own it, obviously, if we sell it. The Boys Club probably would not be paying taxes to the town as a nonprofit. Okay, so I think gentlemen in the back, and I agree, I love tax revenue. We need tax revenue to do the things we're doing. So that might be an issue there. You get a one-time hit, you wouldn't get any tax, you wouldn't get any rent, so. The question was, would we seek a developer to put elderly housing? Are you talking an over 55 or So you're saying, the question is maybe I want to put another thing of privately managed and operated senior housing, affordable? I have senior housing up. I'm going to put public or private here. Anything else? Well, that's a great question. Can they come and do what they want? If the property were to be sold, I would expect, like with the Franklin School, we'll use the Franklin as an example. The Franklin School had restrictions on it. There could only be 20 units in the building. If you may recall, when the Board of Selectmen went out to sell Franklin School, they looked at basically two options: a 20-unit option in the footprint of the building itself, or an option for, I think it was 30 units with an addition. And they felt that that might be too much of a burden in the area. So if we do sell, yes, there can be, and I would expect there would be restrictions, whether it's use, density, landscaping, how it's going to look. I wouldn't want to see, I mean, keep the building, obviously, not sell it and knock it down. That'd be one of the biggest ones. The selectmen would put, and actually be voted on by town meeting as well. And then the party that was purchasing it would probably go through the planning board, Mr. Revis? Planning board for a special permit, and they would, work out some of the nitty-gritty. At the end of the process, the seller. Okay, right. The RFP goes through the selectmen. Yeah. But we would put restrictions.
I just wondered, after looking at all these options and studying, what would be the rough timetable? When you pick 2 or 3 that you're going to really hone in on.
I'll have something out tomorrow morning. No, we're certainly not in a rush. We're going to take our time on this. What I'll do is bring it back. We'll talk with our team. We'll most likely have another meeting to kind of talk about it. What I'll be looking for, quite frankly, is balancing all these out with the overall needs of the town, with where we are financially, with what the impact would be on the neighborhood, which I'm very cognizant of. And as Mr. Revis tells me, I've turned into a preservationist because this is my old school, so that's gonna color whatever I say here about this. So, but that would be we'll be working together and bringing it back to the selectmen, but probably here first. Like I said, we're on level 1 before that even flyer starts. One thing we will do is I will ask any of the departments if they have any real request and use for this building, and that'll help flush out some of these things too. Great office for Rick Stinson. We talked about that. I could walk right up Quarter Street. It'd be good for me too. Mr. McBain.
I think everybody should understand that no matter which option you go through.
This is the most direct abutter, by the way.
Yeah, right now. What everybody needs to understand, basically, this building hasn't been taken as care of as well as it might have been. I mean, there's a budget, so you can only do so much. And this building, no matter what you do, basically, needs to be taken care of. The roof, everybody says, well, we're going to patch and repair. A slate roof is only good for about 100 and 120 years. This building's 1898, so it's reached its limit. And to replace that roof is a considerable amount of money if you're going to do it in slate. Now, you could do it in other materials. But on top of that, there are areas on the oldest section of the building where, in fact, there is settlement between the windows, basically. There's some movement in there. But there's never been, at least in that section, and maybe even this, a repointing of the building to tighten it up. If it's to be used for some of these other functions, it's not just the heating system. If you're going to use it year-round, today you need air conditioning. And there's no air conditioning in this system at this point. So, if the town's serious or, the committee is serious, we need to do something about that. So there's a bunch of money besides boilers and other sorts of things that people got to think about, basically, for this particular building. So it's easy to say, we'll do this, we'll do that. But when it comes to the base buildings, there's really some infrastructure work that needs to be done. Elevator is going to be $100,000 to $120,000 to put an elevator in this building to get to the 3 levels of these buildings. And then you got to find the right place to do it. So when you come in here, you can get from the parking lot or you can get from the front of the building, depending on where people are stopped and depending on the activity in the building. All of this is important to understand, basically, in the big picture of things. That there's, you can all of a sudden move people in here, but if you're really serious about using this for some of these activities and you want it to be done right, then you're going to have to spend some money up front to do it right. Otherwise, it's just it continues to be a sort of a Band-Aid type of thing. That's all.
Yeah. See, this is what I need you. We need the facilities guy for this. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Germino from Kimball Avenue. I just wanted to mimic that sentiment. I think that's what's been on my mind. You drive by every day, and there's kind of a sad appearance to the building. So I think with all the beautiful ideas, that either we commit to something, worthwhile, or really consider the option of, letting it go. So I just want to mimic that last sentiment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? And I'm not going to not let you come up. Sure. Anybody else that hasn't spoken, then we can get that.
I'm a pretty direct abutter also. I look over at the building, and I do agree with Mr. McBain that it would be nice to see the building maintained, whether it's privately or for town use. And I would point out to anyone that hasn't seen it, the North School in Stoneham, that was, I assume, sold and made into condominiums. I visit over there very frequently. I've been inside and outside frequently, and it's beautiful. It fits into that community very seamlessly. There's not a lot of commercial, traffic like you would get with assisted living or something of that nature, and it's quite nice. So as a neighbor, I would love to see any of these wonderful things happen if the building was maintained, but I would not object if it was maintained and used for condominium use and it was nice.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll repeat your question, Sandy. So artist studio, either public or private. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? All right. We'll be here gathering everything up. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight in the first of our series and trying to work together to get this done. Thank you very much. We do need air conditioning in this building, though. So thank you.
You want me to keep these here and take them down?